Welcome, everybody, to the East Elvins 310 podcast. You got Travioli coming at you today on June 16th. It's not Sunday Cannabis Sesh. This is Get Down Monday.
There you go.
Just totally made that up. I got Mr. Chad Winch with me today.
Hey.
And if you don't know Chad Winch, you're missing out. I know you do. You probably know The Barn. Hey. There we are.
Yay me. The studio audience.
So with you coming into the studio today, I want to let you know, I feel very honored. You were 100% of my motivation to get started with this. Along that came with all the other podcasts that works with you. I madly respect all of them. It's all a bunch of good, really good people. I love that we're all about the same age. I think that's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
I think that might be a pretty bonus or like beneficial. But yeah, man, I mean, I seen what you were doing. You were doing big names. You do big things. So, I mean, if you, Mr. Chad Winch, he's with The Barn. If you'd like, go ahead and give a rundown of The Barn, man.
Yeah, The Barn. So The Barn started about 3 years ago, and I don't talk about this a whole lot, but I lost a couple of really close friends of mine, Dick Cross being one of them.
Yes,
who,
one of my BFFs,
Yep.
man, from way back. I don't know if
Yep.
you knew that, but he was my...
Yep. And, he was my cousin, but he was like, one of my best friends.
Right.
And, man, I've always sort of been a creative guy. I used to play in bands, used to, just really be creative in a lot of different ways. And when I was kind of going through that grieving process of losing two of my best friends within, a really short time period,
Yeah.
I just lost that creative itch. And I didn't even realize it. Like when you're going through something like that, you don't
Right.
even really realize you're kind of in that funk. And me and my wife bought a house out where we're at now, outside of Farmington. And, I was kind of going through that funk. And when we bought the house, it was a woodworking shop. The guy before was a woodworker. Well, that's not what I do. I'm not all that crafty and hands-on. And I knew it was going to be my man cave, sort of like you have in here, right?
Right.
Your space to get away and kind of do your own
spot.
thing. Yeah, and I've always had that spot. Well, I built a bar, and I had the TV behind it, just so me and my buddies could have a drink and watch the game or whatever.
Hell yeah.
And one day I was on the other side of the room, and I looked over, and I was like, man, that almost looks like a podcast sort of set.
Did you, at that moment, is it from another podcast that you've seen that made you think that? Or how, I mean, podcast just didn't pop in the head. Something had to trigger, like, who's your follower? Who's motivated you to get that started?
So it's actually kind of a funny story. We actually had a podcast many, many years ago. And I would venture to say that we were probably the first podcast in this area.
Okay.
It was called the Chris Sabo Power Hour. And it was Dwayne Cross.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, Dwayne, and which he had a radio, background,
Yep.
obviously, but had the radio
Killer
voice
on the radio.
and, yeah, just totally killer. So he was sort of our host, and it was me and my buddy Chuck and another guy, Danny, and we were basically just ripping off Howard Stern and
okay.
Jackass, like just doing crazy stuff. Well, it got pretty popular, especially for the time, because at that time podcasts weren't well known.
Right.
One of my comedy heroes is Tom Green.
Yes.
And like sort of that Jackass culture and skateboard culture and all that, and he
started it. He's the OG. I feel
like too, and so I was kind of early in the game as far as just consuming podcasts. He was one of the first ones to do it, and I would watch it religiously. And I remember, I tell this story quite a bit. I went to Dwayne and I was like, "Hey, let's start a podcast." He goes, "What the hell's a podcast?" It was that early on, it was like
right.
2010 maybe or something. Well, we did a bunch of goofy stuff, and we had a nice little run. Some people were pretty entertained by it, but I don't know if you remember, in Deloge Labor Day picnic, a guy went streaking through there.
I do. I don't know who it was, but
So
I do remember being
it was my buddy Chuck, and we were live.
Shit.
We were live on air, and so I'm broadcasting as we're running through Deloge Park, and he's naked. Well, at the time, I had a job with the court system.
Oh, no, Chad.
And I almost got fired because this was at my house. We're doing a podcast. I'm live on the air. He's naked, all this, and kind of giving a play-by-play. So I had to kind of back away a little bit, and I actually just kind of was off mic.
I can only imagine that. Chad Winch, can you please come in this office for a moment?
Yeah.
We need to have a talk.
Dude, it was like that. With like, judges. Because I was with the court system. So we get a kick about it now, but at the time, it's like, I got a small child and I'm about to
Right.
lose my job because we're doing silly jackass stuff, and
It was definitely a different era. I mean, there was a time where that was just wild and it was funny. And then, yeah, we definitely can't do that shit now.
no,
You pick up a charge real quick.
and he did. And we're doing it just out of fun, and it's late at night. It wasn't like there was kids there or anything. He ran through the beer garden. I think he sat down and started drinking a beer naked, and the cops are chasing him and stuff. So,
That's funny.
But so that was a long time ago, and then, like I said, it kind of got, how some things are just so hot that they burn out, like they just can't sustain, and that was kind of what that was. So that was like my first venture into it, but a lot of it was Tom Green. Tom Green is my comedic hero. I love him. I love what he's doing. I think he's so. A lot of his stuff comes off, and Jackass is this way too. A lot of it comes off as like juvenile behavior and humor, but I actually think it's pretty smart what they do. And I always appreciated that about comedy. That it can be really dumb, but I think it can be pretty. I think it's one of the craziest crafts to try.
You can learn too. I mean, I know that with the podcast that you got going and what's created. I mean, from Tom Green, because. Just raw. He's just raw. But like what you do is so professional, man. The people that you started out interviewing and you're still interviewing, and then you've branched off to these eight different podcasts. So it's different themes. It isn't just the barn's full of proper. What's the word I'm looking for? Possibility for everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, you even have a Christian. Episode, which a huge shout out to Dawn. I went to school with her.
Oh, really?
She is really and has always been that pure. She is an amazing person. She's funny. I just remember from school. So when I seen she was on there, I'm like, you're in perfect hands, girl. You're on a network that cares, a network that's doing big things, promoting things, and growing.
Yeah, Dawn's awesome, man. And me and her are so close now. I mean, we text almost every day. She's just, like you said, a genuine person. And, man, she's so passionate about it. And whether I agree with it or some other listeners, we have a metal podcast where we have.
That's where I was going to go. I was like, you want to touch base on these without me telling them? I mean,
yeah, sure. So a metal podcast, which is, some of the bands, might have very different beliefs than Dawn does. But I'm a big believer in variety and offering our audience that, because not everybody fits into one box and just want to listen to one thing. And maybe they do. Maybe they're just a sports guy or a music girl or whatever.
And that's fine.
And that's fine too. But I want to offer a little bit of flavor for everybody. And I feel like we're doing that right now. And I'm really happy with where we're at right now. So Dawn, she does Bible time at the barn. And if you're into that sort of thing, you're going to love her. You're going to fall in love with her. You can just tell she's got a huge heart and a huge passion for that. And she's amazing.
It shows.
Knuckleball Primetime is a lot of our sports. We do a whole lot of sports, everything from even like middle school football to professional sports.
And I love it because just in 4 years, think about Bryant. Like you've announced people growing up from freshman year to senior year to going to playing colleges.
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to see more of that because you're still growing.
Yeah.
So with that sports one, I mean, you're covering everything: minor leagues, high school, major.
Yeah, we were at the IndyCar race last night. We get media credentialed a lot, so like the media world has accepted us, which is really cool.
That
so
is
like, we'll be, I interviewed Caitlin Clark, interviewed a whole bunch of different people, sitting in press conferences. I got to touch the U.S. Open trophy last year.
Wow.
Bryson DeChambeau was there, and I know golf's your thing now, so you can appreciate that. Knuckleball's a little bit of a collective of a lot of different people. I would say mostly me and Micah Pogamiller. Do you know him at all?
Who is it?
Micah Pogamiller. He graduated around Dale's age. So
I don't think so. If I've seen a face, I'm more of a face guy.
Yeah. So, and he also does our Birds and Swords, which is our gaming podcast.
I know. I've watched a couple of videos on episodes of that one. So yes, I do remember him.
So he's originally from this area, but he now lives in Milwaukee. And he was actually one of the first I reached out to when we launched the whole network. I mean, at first it was just the barn, and we didn't even really know what it was and what we were doing.
It's a lot, man.
And then, it kind of grew, and then we brought on more people. And Micah's a huge part of the barn. The barn wouldn't exist without him. He does a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff that people probably don't even realize.
Shout out, Micah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't wait to have you in. I'd like to meet you, for real. I've heard nothing but great positive things about you.
Oh, and he's a little bit like me, a little bit old school in the way is like you kind of mentioned the professionalism things. I come from that world, of a professional world. I'm a therapist. I worked in the court system. So like, showing up late is not something that I do, and it's not something I expect other people to do. Mike is very much that way too. Is like, we're having a lot of fun, and it might be a lot of jokes and laughs and whatever, and poking fun at other people and ourselves. But we take it very serious.
And he helps you edit? Is he one of the big part of the editors too, you said?
He does anything that I'm sort of on. I handle most of the editing, but he, like the website, he does a whole lot. He does all his own editing. He helps with Bible time sometimes. He helps with a lot of different things. Like, to put an actual title on him and what he does and what his importance to the barn, you couldn't even do it, because the barn wouldn't exist without him. And the thing is, I always want to try to mention him, because I don't know if like people think it's all me, or sometimes people will, you're doing this, and this. It's not. It's a team. It's a whole team.
Behind the curtain scene.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the way you explain him goes to show why you're so successful with this, man, is because you have surrounded yourself with all these wonderful, beautiful people, man. Like, pure, want to do nothing but good, and that's amazing.
And I think that's been a large part of our success. I did an interview with Artists United Network in St. Louis, and he said,
that was a good episode.
I want to welcome, Chad, Dale, and Twan. They're part of the Barn, the fastest growing media company south of St. Louis. And at first I was like, and I was thinking about it, I was like, maybe not in numbers, like viewers and subscribers and all that, but there's a lot of truth in that. And that's not me
100%.
Patting myself on the back. That's me saying my team is doing
work,
amazing things, and we're doing work. And that's what I'm proud of the most, is the consistency. You never win a week since we've launched where something hasn't been released. And you know how much.
And that's hard.
You know how difficult that can be, especially when you have, maybe editing issues.
Oh, 100%, dude. But again, you've surrounded yourself with people that's super talented with that stuff too. Shout out Kyle Wright with the Tippy Joe Show. Let's hit that one real quick, because Tippy Joe Show, besides you getting started, they were kind of one of the first ones that I clicked onto and like really loved their vibe and how they were doing things, not knowing I ever was going to have a podcast at that point. But when I did, both you guys were doing it. And Dell was making me laugh my ass off too. Like, Dell is an amazing fucking person. This dude is so pure and funny as shit. Like, he's just a really great dude to have. If Dell's at the place, he's there.
Yeah. So the Tippy Joe Show, Kyle Wright was the first one to actually tell me about you.
Oh.
And he's like, dude, you got to check this guy out. And I said, well, what makes him good? And he said he knows what he's talking about. With all the things that you guys talk about, you're very knowledgeable about
Thank you, man. And cannabis, if you're wondering, it's cannabis.
And he said, dude, he's legit. I said, okay, cool. And once, like, he said that, like, I totally dove in. It's like, yeah, man, this is cool. And not only that, not even just the knowledgeable aspect of it, is like, you can carry a conversation. And I understand what your role is right now. You're working this, and this, and you got to know where the conversation's going, where we're going to take it, right? So it's a lot to process, and it's not easy.
No.
People tune in, and they're like, oh, they're just sitting around talking. It might look like that, but there's a lot of preparation.
Go back and watch the first episode. You said it yourself. Like, when we started on Podbean, shout out Jake, Enlightened Jay. He got me started. The dude came over, and I'm like, dude, I'm thinking about I miss my people in the dispo. I miss talking to people and educating them about proper dosages, how to tell faulty products, how not to consume or ingest something that hasn't been tested or safe. We're at that point now where it matters. It's nice to be able to know that. So with that being said, Jay came over and he's like, dude, I think I got this ready. And we were at a very tiny table without this studio wall, sitting right here. Pictures are on YouTube. It's funny looking at it, actually. He's like, all right, Trav, we're ready. We're live. And I'm like, what? Because you couldn't record it. It was only live only.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we're fucking live. So my first 10, 15 episodes, we only did live. And basically, the only difference between this and that is it's a little easier on my mindset that I can go in and edit it.
Yeah, right.
But I had people coming in and downloading the app Podbean that nobody knew what the fuck it was.
Well, I remember our first conversation. I was like, where can I find it? Kyle had told me about you, and I don't know if I reached out to you or you reached out to me. I was like, where can I listen to it? You're like,
it was
Podbean.
So hard.
I'm like, what is Podbean?
It was this total random site, and it was free that you could do live podcast streaming on. And it was neat because I'd have listeners, but so many people would tune in randomly in different countries and everything, because I guess it was like a radio that you could just turn a knob and find. At sometimes it got up to 1,200, 1,300 followers, and that got nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But not all of them, it wasn't like that every time, but it was just neat, that little ride of high. And then whenever I found out everybody's having a hard time finding the app and downloading and listening, I had some homies from Croatia that actually live on the south side, the truck drivers, are like, dude, you need to go to Spotify. That's what I listen to. I listen to Rogue. I'm always on Spotify. Oh, shit. Okay, so I had to reach out. Who can do this?
Yeah.
So I had to reach out to this Jill, a friend of mine, and she helped me get set up on that in my first episode with my mom. And it was amazing because it showed me then how many more people tuned in, and then they would subscribe, and then they're following. And it's a good feeling, And And it is a lot moving and trying all this, because we have went from a little China box to this mixer, and then screens and 3 mice to move the computers.
Yeah, so you kind of mentioned that you have to make it as convenient for the listener as possible.
Right.
So that's why, and I think you are too, is like we're on Spotify, Apple, YouTube. We're on everywhere that people
Apple.
really listen to podcasts. We're there. So making it as easy and as simple, as a one click. Because I don't know if my attention span isn't that good. So if I can't get to it easy, I just kind of give up and move on to something else.
100%.
So I think that's important.
I agree with you on that. So that's why we did the Spotify and YouTube. I might need to do Apple. I've had actually a couple people ask me. We'll talk about that on the back end, though.
Apple is where most of our people listen.
Apple is where.
Yep.
Dang it! All right, that's another motivator gear.
And it's like 70%. See, I'm a Spotify guy, but I don't have an iPhone. So I think it's like 70% Apple listeners versus 30 Spotify, and then like less than 1% everything else, like Google Podcast and everything.
All right,
but Apple's where it's at.
Your boy Travioli got to step it up again. Damn it! All right, I'm gonna move this over to the next slide. Switch this.
Can I real quick?
Yeah.
So Vulgar Display of Podcast is me, Anthony Hedrick, and Dale Stotler.
Forgot about the other side.
That was probably one of the first ones that we launched. I knew. When we started the barn, I was like, what can we, probably like maybe similar to you, is like, what can we get on mic about tomorrow and talk about and be knowledgeable about? Mm-hmm. And I've been a metalhead since I'm 10 years old.
You're wearing a Kiss shirt.
Yeah, I'm wearing a Kiss shirt, yeah. And I like all kinds of music, don't get me wrong, because one of our other podcasts, Midwest Mixtape Podcast, is where I do a lot of the interviews that aren't metal. So we do. Actually, you were on that.
I got to be on that podcast. Yes, yeah. Mr. DC himself, tag team. Well, there it is.
Man, that was cool.
That was like, I was fresh too, bro. I was like maybe 2 months into podcast, and I was so nervous, but it was so cool. I walked into your studio, dude, and it was just this man cave that looked like the Man Show, kind of, now that I'm looking back. Like, it was just this huge room of a bunch of cool things. I seen some Elvis memoir, which if you can look around, your boy Travis is into some Elvis.
I should have worn my Elvis.
Amazing dude. We should have collaborated, but didn't think about that.
Yeah.
You see those glasses over there by the Elvis book?
Okay.
Those were Elvis's.
What?
No.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say
the only thing that's really cool is this poster that stands on this one is a cloth poster that was actually back in the day at the drive-ins when they would show them the film.
Wow.
They wrote on the bottom of this, and it has a date, and it says, if you do not return this, you'll be fined $500. And this one don't have pinholes. And I Googled image it and went to eBay just to check. One with pinholes was like $9,000.
What?
So, yeah. So this right here, I got this at an auction for $25. I went to a estate sale a long time ago.
I want to put that out there.
I'll edit that.
you got good security around here.
I got cameras all around this thing, and I got my mama out here, so we good. But yeah, no, it's neat though.
I do want to, and they're pretty pricey. Can be. I want to get a velvet Elvis.
Oh,
you know what I mean? The velvet, the old school velvet Elvises. Oh. You know what I'm talking about?
Not offhand. I can.
You see it. These were all around when we were kids. Velvet Elvis. I want to get one for the studio, but they can be pretty pricey.
It'd be cool. And then everybody that's seen has actually brought me more Elvis stuff. Listeners have actually donated more Elvis stuff to put up.
Like these, where there's like
velvet. Yes, sir. I forgot about that with the frame. I haven't seen those since in the day. Probably since I went to Graceland.
Yep.
I probably have not seen those. And what that is it's just a picture of Elvis, and it's like film. What is that? Like fuzzy?
Velvet.
Velvet? It is velvet?
Yeah.
That's dope. We
I
all
need
need
get one
that.
of those, but they can be pretty pricey.
But yeah, it's neat. And then I have, like I said, listeners found this at a sell the thermometer, and they're like, it'd be nice on your wall. I'm like, I appreciate that. I grow weed in there, so I need to know the temperature and the humidity, so
Yeah.
it works.
But yeah, the tag team thing. So, you know, we that was pretty early on when me and you first were introduced to each other,
Right.
and I actually put it out there. I was like, hey, we're going to interview tag team. You know, I think I just put a social media post, and you're like, dude, I listened to tag team when I was like 8 years old, jock jams and all that. And
Loved it.
I'm like, well, come on the interview. And people ask me that sometimes, like, why we're maybe so open to that is having other people on. Is like, dude, if somebody's excited about something, why not want to share that with them? You know, like tag team means a lot to you. Why
unreal.
wouldn't I want you there? You know what I mean?
And it was so cool, just sitting there, getting that vibe, coming into your studio, looking around, seeing all that, and then sitting there and him coming live, and your guys' conversation before you recorded. It was just, it's like you guys were homies for all your life. You know what I mean? Like you just went back, been friends forever.
Well, a lot of that was him too. He's
cool, really good
and smart.
He was real proud of that background. Remember, he got that. He had that.
Yeah.
The green light or the.
Yeah, he's like, how's this lighting? Yeah, he was very particular about that. With like, you know, kind of going back to the professionalism thing is like, a lot of them are like that. Their attention, I guess, their attention to detail is important. A lot of the maybe celebrities or some of the more recognized names that we get sometimes.
And you've had big ones, Murphy Lee.
Murphy Lee was cool.
You just the recent one at the Point Fest.
So we interviewed 311, the Toadies, Urge.
Listen to these names. You guys really need
Jeremy,
to follow them if you have not followed them. You've got to go check this shit out.
Jeremy Piven, the actor, a pretty well-known actor. Steve-O, we interviewed the Tiger King from prison.
That was fucking great. That was probably
cool.
one of my favorite, just because that was so different, and I loved the show, and it was a lot.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of people here in our community.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I know he's from Oklahoma, but the dude could have grew up in fucking San Francisco County.
Yeah. Actually, he knew the Missouri area very well because of Branson and like some of those like tiger sanctuaries and stuff. And he was only, I think, in Oklahoma. So like he knew Missouri pretty well. Even off air, we were kind of talking about it a little bit. But I got more messages about Tiger King than anybody that we've interviewed, just because I think everybody watched that. It was COVID.
Everybody was at home. I was gonna say, it's funny.
But I always do say when that interview gets brought up, he was smarter than maybe I gave him credit for. There was still some of that wildness in him. He had some jokes that were hilarious. I'm in prison. I dropped the soap on purpose.
That was so funny. He's like not one motherfucker came.
But he was, kind of charming in a lot of ways. Like everybody walked away from that interview is like, I like the Tiger King. Like,
It was good.
But yeah, he was a lot smarter than people think. Real quick, the Parkland podcast is Jason Lowry and Mark Toady. Those guys have been on the radio in this area. If you're from this area, you know those voices, you know those names. So both of those guys were working for a local radio station and they got let go. And Jason, I've known Jason since I'm a kid. He reached out and he's like, hey man, this is what happened at this place. They kind of did some people dirty, and Mark Toady being one of them, I think he worked for them like 30-something years.
Gosh, dang, 30 years.
And he's like, would you be open to having us on the podcast? I'm like, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Because, we do a lot of national stuff. We talk to a lot of, maybe famous people or well-known names, but our community is important to us too.
Right.
So we interview a lot of local bands. Tippy Joe Show, they do an awesome job of celebrating local. Parkland Podcast does an awesome job of local. And then also the Dirty Right Rear podcast is actually one of our most downloads, listens. It's local dirt track racing, and they've really filled a void in this community, and they do an awesome job of celebrating local, because we have an awesome dirt track community in this area. And so they've done an awesome job of highlighting that and showcasing that. And they're a lot of fun. I do a lot of the production on theirs, and I was actually just on their podcast last week, I think. So it's a lot of fun.
That's another thing that your boy Travioli waited until I was 40 to start doing. So previous episodes you've heard, I've started kayaking, fishing, and I'm golfing now.
Yeah.
Another thing I have done is fucking dirt track. I'm a huge fan of it. I have never went until I was 40 though. I grew up here, Chad. I've never been to San Francisco Raceway. I during the carnivals and things.
Yeah, right.
Demolition Derby, I've been there, but to sit there and watch these cars, it's amazing. And that is it's interesting that you said that's the most downloaded. I can see that because of the age. You probably have a pretty big age gap
Yep.
people too, because there's young racers.
Yeah.
Like this isn't a bunch of old folks racing around here. The first time I went, I was so high. I was there and I didn't know what to expect, and it was so loud. And here comes these tiny cars, bro. And they start going around. I'm like, this is fucking wild. I'm getting whiplash, giving myself whiplash, you
Yeah.
know. And then I'm like, the winner is getting ready to get out of his car, and I'm like, I can't wait to see how tiny this dude is. Like, these people have to be like very small people, like horse jockey.
Yeah,
like you know what I mean? Like
4'9".
and he gets out.
Yeah.
No, it had to be like a 9 or 10-year-old. I'm like, he shouldn't be driving that car that fast.
Yeah.
Your boy's not a parent. I've never had a kid, but I know Travis at 10 could not be driving that track that fast with that many people and not wreck.
Yeah.
Like, it's just impressive to go watch these kids grow up, like following their parents or their uncles or grandparents.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it is, like when you grew up playing Little League, right?
Yeah.
So it's not all that different. I mean, it's a little bit more dangerous. You have to have a little bit more courage than taking grounders at shortstop, right? But it's just like that. It's sort of the little leagues of racing. And Jeremy Booyer, one of the hosts of the Dirty Right Rear podcast, he actually owns some race cars.
Oh.
So some of the kids that you maybe even saw,
Probably
it's
race
his
for him.
car. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. So they bring in the kids all the time, and the kids are hilarious, man. Interviewing them is like you don't know what you're getting. Some of them won't stop talking, and then some won't talk at all. Which is like, and I'm sure you experience this sometimes, especially the vibe you guys got in here. Get a little something going on and people just freeze up and you got to keep the conversation going, which I actually always kind of say that like it's almost more difficult interviewing somebody that's local that hasn't been interviewed before than somebody like, Steve-O, who's done a million of them, right? And you have all this background on Steve-O.
Yeah.
So I could ask this question. Somebody local, one, they don't have really the experience and they might be nervous, so they might kind of freeze up. And as the host, you have to keep the conversation going. So I think it's sometimes even more difficult.
So check it out. Check out the Barn Media.
The Barn
is awesome.
Media. That's our website.
And it's everywhere. And that's why that's why he's on my show. It's a cannabis podcast. He's not a consumer, but he understands. He respects the fact. He respects what we're doing because we're not just Cheech and Chonging it out there. I like to Cheech and Chong it. I ain't going to lie. But for real, it just helps my anxiety. It keeps me happy. I work. Can't tell you the last day I missed a day of work. You know what I'm saying? I'm always an hour early. I'm that weird stoner that's there an hour early. My wife hated it when we worked together. She's like, why do we got to be there? I'm like, we could have broke down. Something could happen. There could be a traffic jam. I'm that dude. I'm also the dude that's in the race car saying, you shouldn't go that fast because you're going to get hurt.
Right.
Like, I never was. I always was scared of shit like that. But check him out.
And just because I don't consume, I'm a big believer in it. I've seen the benefits of it. I'm a therapist, so... I have plenty of clients that say I couldn't function in the way that I do now without it. So if a client tells you that or somebody tells you that,
I'm so happy you shared that. I really am truly. Chad is not like a normal. I'm saying all our other guests aren't educated, but Chad has some stuff behind his belt to be proud of. You sent me over the warn sheet that you gave me on yourself, and I want to say your degrees is amazing. So like you are a very, very, very educated person to be on a cannabis podcast. But I brought you on for a certain reason. I do want to say, do you want to throw out there your academics?
Yeah. So, I think it actually kind of comes from the same place that the Barn does. I was in line for a job, and I think everybody like within the company would have said that I would have been a better fit for the job, or I'd have been a good fit for the job.
Okay.
The one thing that I didn't have was just that degree. Like I had a bunch of college, but I just didn't have that degree. And I got passed up on the job because I didn't have that degree and the other person did have the degree. Even though they probably weren't as good or as qualified, not qualified in the sense of, academics, but just wasn't as good a fit as I would have been for the job. And I can tell you, like, that moment, I can even take you to the place where I was standing. It changed my life in a way that I was like, it almost sunk in as like, oh, life is almost kind of like a game and you just got to play it better. Right? So from that day, I was like, okay, all you need is this piece of paper and I would have got this better job for my family, made more money, maybe a better situation. But all I was missing was this piece of paper. In that moment, in that second, I go, I'm never going to go to a room or to an interview and not even as qualified for the position I'm applying for, but more qualified than the person that's interviewing
Oh,
me.
nice.
And it gives me chills to even think about. That was just my mindset, and it's been my mindset for as long as I can remember. And it doesn't really necessarily come from a competitive place. It's just you sometimes have to play the game in order to get what you want. Like I can.
That's true. You got to
You know,
step up.
Yeah, and then you always hear like fake it till you make it. Well, the barn's an example of that.
100%.
You know, we're interviewing all these people, but we're doing it from my garage. You know,
In San Francisco County.
yeah. So like we shouldn't be doing that. But we've faked it until not that we've made it, but we've faked it until we've gotten to a place that's pretty dang cool. And so I've sort of always lived my life by that. It's like, okay, this is just a game. How can I play better than other people? Or how can I play better than, the system? Or whatever the game is, how can I be better at it? So that was really where I started taking my academics serious. And then, so I graduated, with my bachelor's or associates and bachelor's, and then I got my first master's degree, and then a lot of the education went online. Well, that's easy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to go. You're telling me I don't have to go to class
You
and
do it at
like
home?
sit there and fall asleep in class. I could just do it at home. It just made sense just to keep going, and that's sort of
So you did it from home while you were working, while you were raising kids,
yeah.
married.
Yeah, and it was all just at the idea is like, how can I better my life to better my kids' life?
That's
right?
awesome.
How can I give them what I maybe didn't have? I came up with awesome parents.
Yes, you
but
did.
we didn't have a lot. My dad is still a trash man. My mom worked in nursing homes. Amazing, awesome people that instilled some awesome things within me and my sister. But we didn't have a lot. Well, how can I give my kids more than what I had? And that was one of the
That was
ways.
your drive.
That was the drive. That was the
Hell
drive
yeah.
for sure. And I would say a lot of the drive of what we do with the barn is like I said, even last night we went to the IndyCar race and I got to take my girls and they're experiencing all this.
Right.
That happens because of the barn. And we've done a million things, a million activities. We get to go to concerts for free. We get to go stay in hotels and Airbnbs for free. It's all because of the barn, but I get to share it with my girls.
So you just said it right there. That all the things that you said is amazing, 100%. What he didn't say is them girls are going to grow up and have these memories forever. They can never be taken away, Chad. They'll never be taken away. All the dedication and stuff that you do. We went and played golf the other day. You brought your A-Town.
Ava.
You brought A-Town.
Yeah.
I was calling her A-Town because the girl, she'd get a hold of it. And
She could hit it.
And she was determined, and she had a lot of dad in her. I could
Yeah.
see that, like, she wasn't just going up there hitting it and then being silly with it. Like, she went up there, she looked at it. Any advice you were giving me or her, she was listening.
Yeah.
That was awesome, and them girls are going to remember that shit forever, bro.
It's the greatest joy of life, of my life for sure, and my wife. And I couldn't do it without her either. Shout out Sarah. She's my high school sweetheart, but you don't get that a whole lot. But I think yours was too, right?
Mine knew me in high school. She would kill me if I said we were sweethearts because we didn't hook up until directly after high school.
Okay, but close enough.
She said I was too much of a stoner. So your boy would start conversations in high school. When I get there, I see her because she'd be in the gym doing volleyball stuff, and I'd walk up to her and I'd tell her, "You got to hear this story." I get halfway through it and be like, and she's like, "Motherfucker, you better remember the story." Well, I couldn't. I'll be like, I'll get back with you on that. She's like, "I ain't talking to you no more, Travis. Get your shit together." But I didn't, and I kept hitting her every day with that. And I guess, yeah, as soon as we got to school, we hooked up. But yeah, we've been together 21 years.
Yep. We just celebrated 20 years of marriage last month. And high school sweethearts, you don't get that a lot.
Yeah.
These days, and it's not easy. It can
It's
be
not.
difficult at times, but you got to power through it. You got to fight through it. You got to figure out a way to be good communicators, which us guys we're not usually.
My advice to anybody for a relationship, because I've only had two. I'm 41. I've only had two.
Yeah.
One of them was a high school relationship.
Right.
So, listen, and be surprised. Just listening.
Yeah.
Listening and helping, and just basically ups and downs. I would say let it just go in and out, but I don't know if I'll get in trouble for that. But that sometimes it ain't a bad thing. Everybody needs to vent, and if you guys can learn to vent off of each other, then you guys will be very successful.
Yeah, and I feel like I've only recently been a good husband. I don't know if it's just maturity or my age now, or
It might be.
just I don't know. I just and being a parent has a lot to do with that. You got to be able to communicate good and be on the same sort of plan and have the same ideas, beliefs, and values, and follow those values. But I only recently feel like I've started to be a good husband, but
It looks like
still
you got
working on it.
We all
But I'm
are.
very lucky.
We all
I'm
are.
very blessed.
We all are. With that being said, we're going to turn the tables a little bit. That was a little bit about Chad, the barn. Again, follow him. I'll post it up on social media, so it'll be easy for y'all to find and follow. But I'm 100% positive anybody listening to this is probably already a part of it. So, Chad, I know you're not a consumer, and that's fine. And like you said, you've heard from your expertise of how it can benefit people. I've took time to write 10 questions that I wanted to ask somebody, because you might be the first person on my podcast that does not consume cannabis.
Yeah,
So I think that's pretty cool. I'll give a round of applause for that too.
I guess. Yeah.
Chad, what's your connection to the cannabis world, if any?
I love that the society is starting to embrace it.
Okay.
And I think part of that is, the the
Legalization?
recreational legalization. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
It used to be the thing. You'd go behind 7-Eleven and you'd meet a guy back there, and it'd be a little bit sketchy, and you wasn't sure what you were getting, and if you weren't sure what you were paying. So, I think some of those, some of the organizations that are quality control and making sure that people understand what they're consuming, rather than meeting a weird guy with long hair and a Metallica T-shirt behind 7-Eleven.
We ain't stereotyping.
No, because I might have been that guy.
That was that guy at the time.
So yeah, I think just society and how it's looked at now. Everybody knows how dangerous drinking can be. And
Yeah.
when we were growing up, that was what it was almost just not only accepted, but it was if you didn't drink, you were an outcast, right? But
Mad
drinking
Dog.
Mad Dog.
Oh,
yeah,
I had to say it.
Yeah, speaking of 7-Eleven in Deloge. It can be so dangerous, right? With drinking and driving,
Yeah.
and drinking till you pass out and you have no idea what you did, good, bad, or illegal, right?
Right.
So I just think, you're in a better state. I think it's a lot healthier. So just society and the way that I think it's starting to turn the corner of this is something that is in our society and in our culture, and if it's used in a way that's balanced for you and your life, because you can take it to the extreme too, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. That's why it's important. That's the main focus why I did this podcast, Chad, is because just because someone that's not familiar with the industry comes up and they're like, "Oh, I ate 600 milligram nerd rope last night," my mind's telling me, "No, you didn't. I know you didn't. They're not in Missouri. You don't know what you ate the other night." So like, I don't tell them that half the time, because that just leads into some BS. But doing the podcast, I can tell people, if you can't scratch that label, if there's not a testing label on it and you can't scratch it, it hasn't been tested.
Yeah.
Like, who knows what the hell is that? You can get on Wish and buy these wrappers. I mean, it's important to know. And I wanted people to know, like, you don't want your grandma doing dabs for the first time. Like, she wants to try cannabis to sleep, and you're like, "Oh, here's some rosin." No, Grandma don't need rosin. Grandma would need like a 1-to-1 CBD to THC gummy, something low dose, maybe a 5 milligram. Tell her if she's never ate it, eat half of it.
Yeah.
10% of your body weight's a safe weighted dose. So 100 pound person at 10 milligram gummies normally okay. But if you never had it before, cut it in half. You can always eat more. You can't cough that shit back up.
Well, I think that's what your podcast does well. I remember first tuning in, and I don't know that world at all, right? I just know the very basics of it. And you were saying words and terms that I had to even Google, but you're educating. You guys have a lot of fun in here, I'm sure. I tune in all the time.
Right.
I watch all your
appreciate
stuff.
you.
I'm a
Appreciate
fan.
it.
I'm a fan. You're educating people and helping them understand the world a little bit better, where it's not so taboo anymore. You can walk downtown and see walk down.
And I think it's because of the industry, being in the industry, I got the confidence to stand behind the counter to take time to explain to you why this is what it is. Then I ask, what do you want? What are you looking for? If you're wanting to get stoned, we can do that. But like, are you wanting joint relief? Are you needing something to help you sleep? Are you depressed? Like your boy Travioli. Do you just need to laugh and be silly?
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered changing the podcast to not be so specific about it?
I'm open to everything because...
Or do you feel that, having a sort of centralized theme helps?
I feel my confidence level behind cannabis is very high. My networking in cannabis in the industry that I've been in for 5 years, a lot of people don't know much about the industry unless you're in the industry. The industry, I'm not going to say it's nothing like cult. It's like we've been through some shit. We have an agent number. So like the longer you've been in there, the smaller your number is. Well, people are like agents 100 and something thousand. I'm 3604.
Oh, wow.
So I was one of the first 4,000 agents in the state of Missouri. And I only brag on that because it's so shit. Like it's up and down. Companies are selling, buying out. And like the people don't get to know this stuff. You know, the same product that you're going in buying every day. For example, this red lighter, they went out of business. They just got bought. And now they're turning into this square lighter that's different. And it's the same product, but you don't know. So now you're going to grab a different product, hoping it works when that same product that you've been doing is on the shelf. The person didn't educate you that they bought out. They've changed names. It's crazy like that to me. So the reason why I like doing it is because I can educate, and like as new products come out, I try throwing them out there and let people know, like the stirrables, how you can put them in your drink, your coffee, your soup, many different ways to consume. You don't just have to smoke it. I don't feel like a lot of people are going in dispos because you got to show your ID, and that scares a lot of people. We're in Missouri, where it's a gun state. They're like, oh, I don't want to come get my guns. I ain't going in that dispo. I have a guy. Well, your guy's weed, yeah, it's getting you high. But that guy's gummies that you're buying is coming from California, and nobody knows what it is. So I just like putting the word out there. I like interviewing other people. That's why I brought you on, because I knew you weren't a cannabis smoker. But you do big things, and you were my motivation. So, like, I'm open to everything.
And here's the reason I ask is you talk about all the different podcasts that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm directly involved with 4 of them because I'm a music guy. I love music.
Right.
But I'm also a sports guy, so we had to launch that. And then, I'm a metal guy, so we had to launch that. So I found myself sort of pretty spread out, and we love comedy. So I kind of just throw that under the just barn umbrella. It helps keep me motivated talking about different things.
Okay.
But I can also see where if you centralize or if you sort of focused on just one thing, where you could really grow that. I think it's sort of helped us in a way to be very variety based, but it's also maybe hurt us. If we had a niche and we just did that, I think the growth would have came.
The difference between that is like cannabis is so large. Like there's so many people out there that's into cannabis, so many people that's interested in learning but don't want to say nothing. That I think that they can secretly tune in like to this, and then if people see me at events or they know I'm going to events, they're going to know it's going to be cannabis friendly. So I think I like interviewing other people, but yeah, usually I wrap it around like this. I can't ask you the 10 questions of cannabis because you're not going to tell me what's your favorite strain to smoke because you don't know.
Yeah.
So I had to adjust the questions today for you, and I can do that with cannabis, and I kind of make that. So yeah, I like it straight point.
Yeah.
But I love how you interview people, and I'm jealous as hell of that. I think that is so fucking cool. I don't know if I could do that. I would be interested. But it takes a lot. Your confidence level's up there because you've earned it. It isn't owed. You earned what you got, bro.
Well, I always kind of thank you for that. But I always kind of talk about, like, I rarely ask a question. Maybe this is good, maybe this is bad. But I rarely ask a question, especially to somebody that's maybe a celebrity or, pretty well known. I rarely ask a question that I don't already know the answer to. Because as the host, and I'm inquisitive, I want to know about people, and especially creative people and their process. Tell me how you wrote that song, or tell me what it was like, Murphy Lee, when the city was popping in 2001 or whatever.
Yeah.
How did that feel? I'm interested and I'm inquisitive in those things. But I also am the host, and I need to sort of have a plan as to where this is going. Now, when it goes off script, that's usually when you get your best stuff.
Yeah, right.
But I'm like you. I have questions lined out. And more, I think, as a safety net for me is like, if it goes stale, because I've definitely had those interviews where it went stale, I have something prepared and ready to go
To pull out of the
to
pocket.
pull it out when I need it.
Hell yeah.
So it's a little bit of that safety net for me, but also like as a host, and I keep talking about how difficult it is. I want people to understand that when they tune into your podcast, it's not just a hang.
My technical difficulties happen, but I've done really good. I've made it like almost 3-4 weeks now with no technical difficulties.
And I want to say this is I'm proud of you, man.
Thanks,
and
dude. It
I'm
means a
so
lot.
happy seeing your growth and seeing you get better, because that's a lot of it for me too, is like you can get hung up on the numbers and the listeners and the follows. I want people, if I put something out there, I want people to see it and hear it, if they're interested in it. I don't want to force feed anything down anybody's throat. But I always say this is like, we're still in the very early stages of this. So I want to get better. I want my people to get better. So everything that we do is just as much for us and us getting better as it is for anybody else. Sure, it's entertainment, and maybe somebody tunes in and they like something they see or hear. That's great. That's amazing. That's bonus.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just as much for us preparing for the future. And I don't know what the future is going to be, but I know there's a future.
There's only one way to go.
So again, I want to say that I'm happy to be here, and I'm
Appreciate
proud of you.
Hell yeah.
And excited to see your growth. And I want to ask you this. I know I
No, you're
kind of
good.
sort of
I'm
became
loving
the
it.
interviewer.
No, I love it, bro. That's what we do in here.
Can't turn it off.
That's what we do in here.
When you do this, especially somebody like Tippy and
So nervous to have her on
Tina. Have you had them? Have you had them on?
I've had
You've
Kyle
a bunch of times.
bunch of times.
Yeah.
Tippy wants to be on here, and I'm going to get her on here. They're at the beginning. My confidence level is there now with them. But before I got to know how great people they are,
Yeah.
I was nervous to have her on. I'm like, this girl, she comes swing. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep up with her, but she does. She adjusts and makes it easy too. And she's good people, and now I know it. Back then I was nervous, but she's going to be on there. I have to have her on here.
I almost invited her.
That would have been
I almost
wild.
showed up with her.
That would have been wild.
Yeah, with her, she can manage a room, or she can lay back if she needs to. She reads the room well.
She stands up.
She's, me and her talk quite a bit, just personal conversations of, because I think with her sometimes, I don't want to say the wrong thing and generalize females, but they can be maybe a little bit more critical of each other than guys.
Oh, yeah,
I see you and man, let's do it.
Yep.
Whereas sometimes, especially she's so much out there.
Yeah.
That I think there's sometimes she'll get a comment here and there, or a DM or something here and
You're
there.
going to.
Where it's like jealousy, and I tell her, and she believes this too. This isn't coming from me, but it's like, don't dim your light just because somebody else has an issue with it. Like, still be you,
Stand
all
up.
the way out there. And she does a good job of that. And I bring that up because they're becoming like local celebrities.
100%.
So somebody might see them in Walmart and be like, "Oh, I saw that you did this, this, and this." And I'm sure you're that way too. Have you had that experience where somebody be like, "I listen to the podcast," and you're like even your mom just now is like, "I listen to your podcast." Like, what?
Yeah, my mom. They do if they see, like, especially if I'm wearing the shirt. But really, I've been called. If I get called Travioli, which happens, I know it's only someone that knows me on the podcast, because no one's never called me that. I made that up for this. In fact, I stole it from one of my bud tenders when I worked at the Valley. She used to call me Travioli. So I'm like, I'm down. I'm going to use that on the podcast. So that's where that came. But, yeah, they're amazing people. I'm going to have her on. I look forward to that. Because, she stands up. You just got to be confident in yourself no matter what you're doing, is what I feel.
I think match people's energies, too.
Definitely adapt. Yeah, when I said adapt, that's why I said she can tune it down to me, because she can adjust. You just got to know who you're talking to.
Yeah, it's really... I think and maybe this is, again, part of my background is like the psychology aspect of reading a room, understanding people, understanding their needs and wants, and how can you fill that and either match it or,
I bet you make a damn good DJ, too. You can read a room. I bet you could be able to go into a room and be
open to it.
I know exactly what needs to be played, and bam.
A little metal here, a little Wu-Tang, some country.
Mix them together. Question number 2, Chad. Even though you don't partake, what's something that you've learned or observed about cannabis culture?
It's not I think one of the things that society thought about it for a long time was it's like lazy.
Yeah.
Right? Like you smoke and then you crash out on the couch, which I'm sure sometimes is still the case, maybe even depending on what kind of
strain or whatever.
Yeah.
Good job, bro.
But it can energize you a lot of the way, like you said, with the work thing, and you never miss a day of work.
Creativity.
So it gets that stigma of being like a lazy person's thing, and it's just not. Did I answer that
Yeah,
question?
no, that's good.
What's
That's
something-
answered pretty well to me. Number 3, have you ever been around friends or family who were high? Any funny stories?
Gosh, I grew up around it. So I had
Our families grew up together too, so
So I had older cousins, and I won't name them on name, although they wouldn't care, and you know them very well, that were older than me. So like, excuse me, like 3 or 4 years older than me, and they were like my brothers. So they were chasing girls, and I'm like 13 or 12, and they're chasing girls, and maybe they're smoking and drinking, and I looked up to them. I idolized them, and actually that's where a lot of my music love come from. Was they were really into music.
they were involved.
Yeah, they loved music, and that's I think where that passion grew. So been around plenty of it. Even I've been around that world a whole lot, and just never really was my thing. Not for any specific reason, but yeah, I don't know if I have any funny stories that wouldn't get the cops beating it down.
No.
But definitely been around a lot in my day.
Number 4, if you had to create a cannabis strain name, since you know what strain is, I love you didn't say strand. That's a thing in the industry. When someone comes into the shop and they're like, what strands you got?
Did I say it right?
You did say it right.
Oh,
it's
nice.
strains. So what if you had to create a strain, what would you call it?
Maybe, have you heard people refer to me as the Mox?
No.
Do you know that? So Dale came up with that. You know the movie Varsity Blues?
100%.
The old football
Yes,
movie,
sir.
right, from the 90s? Well, the quarterback is Johnny Moxon, and they call him the Mox.
Oh.
So Dale, being funny
Quarterback,
and hilarious and witty as hell, he said, yeah, you're just the Mox.
That's
you're the
sick.
quarterback of the barn. So maybe something like
That's sick, dude.
Moxie, something, the Mox, I don't know, something like that.
I'll have to remember that. That's awesome, dude. Shout out Dell again. We wanted you on here, Dell. Fuck work. What's your go-to way to relax or decompress since you don't smoke?
Yeah, podcasting.
Dude, mine too.
Podcasting. I have a couple favorites, and audiobooks too. I'm a lifelong learner, man. I always am just kind of searching for that new thing that I don't understand.
Okay.
And I think that kind of maybe comes back to some interviewing is like, if you bring up a strain or something,
Yeah.
and I want to be able to, at the very least, be somewhat knowledgeable about it. So audiobooks, I listen to, and I do a lot of traveling with my work, so I do a lot of audiobooks.
Your boy
And-
Travioli just listened to his 3rd audiobook the other day.
Nice.
It was Eddie Van Halen's
Audio
audio,
biography?
what do you call it, autobiography? Yeah.
Or to somebody else?
No, it's his brother. It's the narrator through
Oh,
Alex.
nice. Alex.
Yeah.
Van Halen, yeah.
Or no. I'm high right now.
That's all right.
It ain't Van Halen. It's Axel or the Guitar Brothers.
Guitar Brothers.
One died and the other one's still alive. I'll put it back on the show here. They play guitar. In fact, they were from out of country. They came over to New York. They play guitar. And Sammy Hagar was their lead singer for a little while.
Yeah, Van Halen.
It is Van Halen. Okay, yeah, it's the Van Halen brothers.
So they're
then.
brothers. One plays the drums, though.
Okay.
Okay. Eddie plays guitar, or played guitar. And yeah, Alex is the drummer.
Okay, this Alex is telling it, and I was so tuned into this fucking book, man. It was so interesting. They were talking about how their guitars wouldn't play loud enough, so they actually found a way to add magnets to make the amp louder or play, and it kept blowing their house's breakers, and their parents were getting pissed and shit. Little stuff like that. It was just
Yeah.
I had to end up looking up the band and listening to some songs, even though I knew it. They talked about the song so much. So audiobooks is definitely a good way to decompress.
Do you know DJ Buchanan?
I have heard of
Okay,
that.
so DJ was, he lives up in the city now. He's not able to kind of be a part of the barn as much as he used to be. But early on, he was a big part of the barn. And I remember one day, he's a lot younger than me, 24
Yeah.
or something.
Is he that young?
Maybe not.
I actually know him. I do know who you're talking about.
But he asked me, he's like, man, as you know, because I feel like I'm in a good age to do this, but also like
We should have done it in our 30s.
should have done it earlier,
Right.
Should have, when I had the first podcast, maybe kept it going some way. But he asked me, he's like, at my age, what advice would you give me? And I think he was looking for maybe, technical or interviewer or something. I said, dude, just read as much as you can. Because with the interviewing, if somebody brings something up that you maybe might not be aware of, you can at least have a base knowledge of that to ask the right question. rather than the wrong question. So like somebody like Eddie Van Halen, he's regarded as maybe like the number 2 or 3 greatest guitar players in the world. How interesting is that to learn about somebody that's 2 or 3 of the best of all time?
That's so true.
And like being inquisitive about life and other people, and not just your perspective, not just your lane, but have a bigger, just sort of a kid mindset of like, I want to understand, I want to learn, and just being excited about learning and understanding other people, other cultures, other ethnicities, whatever it is. I think it's going to help as an interviewer, as a podcaster, understand where people might be coming from.
Oh, yeah. Damn, you couldn't say it any damn better. So definitely find a way to decompress. And audiobooks are great.
Ooh, can I say something on that?
Yeah, of course you can.
So one of my favorite, I like MMA. I like
Can't watch it, but
UFC. And one of my favorite this was, just got chills thinking about it. This was one of my, I have like a maybe top 5 barn list of all the things that we've done and been a part of. This was definitely way up there, if not number 1. My favorite podcast is called Morning Combat, and it's Combat with a K. And it's a UFC podcast, but that's really not necessarily why I tune into it, or an MMA podcast. That's not necessarily why I tune into it. Well, one of the guys on there is a guy that I really look up to. His name's Luke Thomas. He's a big metalhead. And we interviewed a band that he was talking about, and I sent it in their email, and he brought up the Vulgar Display podcast, which is one of the first ones we launched, our metal podcast, on his podcast.
Oh, wow.
And we have a video of it. And,
shit.
And so our interview, I'm sitting there and I start getting all these notifications on comments and likes on this like old interview that we did. And I'm like, what's going on here? And I commented on one of the comments. I was like, how did you end up at this interview that we did?
Right, how'd you find it?
And they said Morning Combat. And so then I tuned over, and as I tuned over, they're talking about our podcast on my favorite podcast.
Oh my goodness.
Which is like a nationally well-known podcast about MMA.
That is chills, dude.
Dude, I got chills right now thinking about it. And, you know, so it's like somebody that I really look up to. I love what they do. I think they're awesome at what they do. They're talking about little old us.
Yep.
And that meant so much to me. And maybe not a lot of people, especially in this area, might not know that podcast or know that name, but it meant so much to me because it's my favorite. So imagine your favorite podcaster or person talking about something that you create and something that you put hours and a lot of effort into.
I have to go back on that one. How far along? How old?
Well, I pulled the clip of us. You know, I'll send it to you.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, but talk about a moment. It's like, oh man, it was really cool.
Number 6. Do you have any favorite stoner movies or shows?
Yes. Yes. Cheech and Chong, hilarious. Still holds up to this day.
Yes.
My favorite is Up in Smoke, but Dazed and Confused.
Grandma's Boy?
Don't know that one.
You don't know Grandma's Boy? Oh, you'll love that one. You'll have to watch that one.
What are
How High?
How High? Yeah.
That was a good one.
All the like the Seth Rogen's. Didn't he have some?
Pineapple Express.
Yep, that's a good one.
That was a good one.
Yeah, I'd say Cheech and Chong. You can't go wrong.
You can't go wrong with Cheech and Chong.
Man,
I agree with that.
Dazed and Confused too.
Yep.
That was a huge movie for me.
That was huge. Can you imagine back in the day too, like in the 70s, and that shit just fucking and drive-ins.
Well, my mom was like, "This nails it. This nails the late 70s." Like
100%.
she lived it, you know.
Number 7. What's your ultimate snack combo, even sober?
Double fisting right here. Every day I go through Panera and I get a iced coffee and a water.
An iced coffee and a water?
Yeah. They even know me when I pull up. It's like Norm when he walks into the bar.
Oh, yeah.
They're like Chad. Like they know my order. They're like, come on through.
Every podcast I see you done around, you're always two-fisting, and that's what's up.
Yep, that's it, man. That's it. I have it every day.
Number 8. If you had to host a dinner party with famous cannabis icons, Cheech and Chong, we'll use that one. Who would you invite?
Definitely Cheech and Chong. I think I sent you the message. We reached out to Chong.
I did. I was like...
We talked to his people. So a lot of times what some of these people, they'll do like press sort of cycles where they're not just going to call into a podcast if they're home chilling, like not doing anything. But if they have something that they have to promote, then they might, you know... That's how we get some of the interviews that we do is they're promoting something. I talked to Chong's people. And you were definitely going to be in on this.
That would've been
Kyle
so
Wright was
sick.
going to be in on this. Anybody that wanted to be in on this. They just said
That'd been
he's
wild.
interested. We're interested. He's just not doing press right now. So the next time he has something to promote, maybe.
Awesome.
I mean, it's a stretch, but we did talk to his people, and they were very, very cool about it.
My brother Nick never smoked cannabis until he moved out to Oregon to grow cannabis, which is a weird story, but his wife's uncle wanted to retire, so I needed help on the farm, so my brother went out there after he figured out what was going on and took over in Medford, Oregon. With that being said, he got to enter his lemon kush, which is what me and J-Dog just smoked.
Is this J-Dog?
This is J-Dog, cameraman
Dude,
J-Dog. And
he's so supportive.
The infusinator.
He's so supportive of like all your likes and
Yes.
all your shares and everything. Thank you, man.
Yeah,
I didn't know
that's
you were
him.
J-Dog.
Yep, that's the J-Dog.
Did you introduce him as J-Dog?
No, I think I told you his name was Jim.
Okay. Hey, thank you, man. Thank you for being so supportive.
Yeah, he does that for everybody, and I love that. I see him on the back end. He's always on the social.
So he's like your Tina Joe.
So it's me and Show Me Green, and then he's my camera guy, but he's an infusinator. He's always infusing everything, sugar, everything. So every now and then we like to smoke social. We'll just bring him on. Sometimes he don't bring the camera and he's on, but at events he's always bringing it.
Yeah.
He's definitely a big part of the show and madly respected.
And so I say the Tina Joe thing is she's so good about liking and sharing and commenting.
Yep.
And in this world, you know how important that can be.
Time
She's just
consuming.
so supportive in that way, and I see you being super supportive. So
Oh, yeah.
thank you,
Shout
man.
out,
Thank you.
J-Dog.
Shout out, J-Dog.
Thank you.
Oh, so Cheech and Chong for sure. Or Chong, maybe more than Cheech. Cheech takes himself a little bit too serious for me. I'll tell you what.
Oh, I was going to tell you, my brother in the Cannabis Cup,
Oh,
he got
sorry.
to smoke with Tommy Chong. So when he was out there
Oh,
growing,
wow.
he got to take that lemon kush, and he got to go, he was smoking, because he said he had a condition to smoke with Tommy Chong. He sent me a picture of him passing a joint to Tommy Chong.
Oh, very cool.
Motherfucker.
Definitely Chong. I mean, Snoop would be cool.
Yeah, Snoop would be cool.
I'll tell you what, would be playing the Chronic
Oh, yeah.
at the party.
100%, no
With
matter
the
who
CD
it is. Mhm.
and the leaf.
The
You
funny-
got some that look like the Chronic. That's what I was thinking out there. I was like, that looks like the Chronic. The Chronic album by Dr. Dre and Snoop.
Little short, funny story about Dr. Dre CD. When that CD first came out, this area was going through a dry spell. This area would go through where cannabis would come in, and it would be dry for a couple months, and nobody could get weed. Everybody would go to Mad Dog or beer, and I hated alcohol at that time. I appreciate scotch and whiskey now, but as far as like back then, I didn't appreciate that. So cops came to our motel. We went to the city, got a motel room. We were partying, drinking beer. Cops came, knocked on the door. We opened it up. They said, "You guys are partying. You guys," they checked our IDs. They said, "Where's the cannabis?" We're like, "Dude, it's so dry. Nobody fucking knows where the cannabis is." You know, this is the first time cops are involved, and I'm like, I'm not worried about shit because I know we don't got no weed. I said, "May I ask why you even said that?" He said, "Well, look at that CD cover right there. And on the cover, it has that pot leaf. It says
Yep.
Chronic 2001. And I'm like, "You hating son of a bitch."
Absolute classic, that record. I spun that record as a teenager. You probably did too.
Oh, yeah,
A
dude.
million
Oh,
times.
dude, so much. And
Million times.
you'd go burn CDs for the weekend at different places you would go. And you always put that on there. No matter where
Yeah.
you were going, you put 4 or 5 of them songs on there.
Yeah, straight bangers on that. That's one of my favorite rap albums ever.
Definitely mine, too. Number 9. Have you noticed how cannabis legalization has changed things where you live?
Yeah, I think kind of mentioned that earlier, but
Yeah.
like, you know, some of those events that you've been a part of down in like the underground.
Yeah.
And
Shout
then,
out
like,
Underground.
The smoke out festivals or whatever they were, and some of the outdoor festivals. And I
The
know there's
comedy.
still
We
some-
just did a comedy and
Yeah.
cannabis the other night, which was amazing.
Yeah, you sent me that, and I was actually at Dave Matthews that
Which
night.
was a venue. That's amazing.
Yeah, we had a great time there too. But love seeing those festivals. I know there's like a few Karens on Facebook still to be like, why
Yeah.
are they doing this? And they just got to die off, and then we'll be good.
It will, and it's going to happen.
Yeah.
You know, another thing that's going to die off is, like you said, at the 7-Eleven, is finding weed. Like,
Yeah.
there's kids right now that only think the only place you can get weed is from a dispensary,
Yeah.
which is good, especially for young smokers. But, like, there's always going to be that other side. You know what I mean? And it's always going to be a little cheaper. So,
Yeah, just that the communities embracing, especially us being from a small town, there can be that stigma
yeah.
that's attached to it from some of the maybe older people. But I think people our age now that maybe grew up I wouldn't say that because it was very popular in the 60s and 70s too, but just to understand that it's not super harmful.
It's not,
and
especially
can hurt
if
people.
dosed right and consumed properly. This is number 10, and we can be done with the questions. What's one misconception people have about folks who smoke that you think is totally off?
Yeah, I think the lazy thing.
Lazy thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're more active now than I've ever been.
Oh, man. Yeah, for sure. And I'd say the same thing about myself is like this doing all the stuff that we're doing has energized me in wanting to do more things and wanting to get out there and maybe because I can easily be a homebody.
Yeah.
I can just sit up at home in my recliner, watch some sports, and hang out with my girls and just be as happy as can be. But doing all the things that we're a part of energizes me, and I want to get out there and want to meet new people and have new experiences. So it sort of forced my, what maybe come natural is just being at the house and mowing the yard and hanging out and barbecuing and doing those things that I love to do, or maybe go fishing, right? I love to fish too, and golf.
Yeah, golf is kind of taking over everything right now. My gym, I ain't been in that damn gym since I've stepped on the golf course, really.
Yet I'm that way, man. Once I get tuned in on something, it's like consumes me.
Right.
And that's why I'm okay at a lot of things and not great at anything.
But that's good, though. That means you can step in and be part of everything, though.
Yeah. And we got to golf the other.
Yeah, and the tips you gave me,
ago.
I've already told like 2 or 3 people. The shoulder thing is probably one of the best things that I've ever been taught. And it's little things like that. So I appreciate you on that aspect, too. Not only do you help me with the podcast world, you got me on the golf course. I just started fishing, so you probably can give me some pointers on that.
I see those ones you're catching.
The story on that, my neighbor up here has a $60,000 bass boat, and he used to take me on bass tournaments on Wednesday and tell me what to use and show me. And I'm like, dude, I never would have used artificial bait. I never would have used artificial bait. Also had to get rid of the Zebco and get an open face or bait caster because he's like, you can't be on my boat with that. And I'm like, dude, that's all I can use.
That's one of the things my girls enjoy, and they don't mind this. Although my middle one is like obsessed with catching the bass. She's never caught one. So we went out to Big River a couple weeks ago, and I caught a couple and tried to get her to reel them in. But they don't care as long as they're catching them.
Right.
So it can be a little perch or bluegill or something. As long as they're catching them, they're happy as can be.
Well, Council Bluff is where I was doing all that fishing out there.
Well, you don't want to put it out there.
I don't care. He ain't taking me no more. I have to work on Wednesday, so I ain't even fishing anymore. So on the screen right now, I know you guys can't see because I got to work on that camera thing. But the other night, your boy Travioli got really stoned and was thinking about you were going to be on the show. I was really appreciative of like everybody in the network that you have. And I was playing with ChatGPT just to play, and I'm like, create me so I was watching Survivor, and I'm like, how cool would it be to do a Survivor battle of the podcast?
Yeah. You sent it to me, and I go, what is this?
Right. That's what I'm explaining. I don't like the picture they gave you. But
that's me?
It's the barn. So I had to go in and tell.
Oh, Tippy Joe.
Tippy Joe show. We got the East of Elvins 310. We got Vulgar. We got Dale here. Dale over here with the Vulgar podcast. And then the barn. But my thought is like, that'd be cool to like maybe do something like that in the future.
Yeah.
Like, because we're all active. We like doing things. Maybe have like a driving range where we hit balls or we do something. Something maybe to come.
I'd be down for it, man.
I knew you would be. But yeah, I just want to thank you, man, for coming on mainly. And like, you're being a girl's dad, you're a therapist, college professor. It's awesome, dude. Like, you've accomplished so much and you motivate me. And I'm going to keep growing too, just because of what I see you guys do. So I appreciate you including me with your network and stuff every now and then when you guys do stuff. Keep in mind, you ever need, come on. I'll definitely come over and join on.
Yeah. And that's been a really cool thing to see is that our maybe influence with other people too. And I've seen you on several different podcasts where you bring up the barn, you bring up Tippy Joe and Kyle. I don't think we're here without Kyle.
No.
Kyle Wright was
audio engineer.
He knows his stuff, and he knows he's a fixer too. If you got a problem, we would sometimes do some events. We did one down at Four Towns, and we were in the Labor Day parade.
That was wild. Yeah,
and we're going to be in it this year too. If you'd want to,
hell yeah,
join. We got some floats and we got some cool stuff planned in the future, man. I can't wait for people to see some of the things that we're going to be doing. But I would always make sure that Kyle was available if we would schedule something like that. Just because I know he's sort of my right-hand man as far as like if something goes down and I'm hosting, how can he get it back up? And he's just he's one of those guys. He's knowledgeable about everything.
He's great on the scene. He's great off the scene. He's just an all-around great dude to have during something like this going on.
Yeah, and him and Tippy are a powerhouse.
Yes, they are.
Brett and Tina, they're a powerhouse themselves too.
Love Brett.
Yep.
Shout out Brett. That dude, he makes me laugh so much, and he's so talented as well. His editing and he captures some shots.
Yeah, Brett's awesome, and they do such a good job. And yeah, I'm proud to have all the people that we do have on the network. I am happy with the people and the production, and there's still some things that we're getting wrong, and we're going to continue to, but we're going to work on them too. You know, we're not so, our ego isn't so big to say we're perfect. No, we're a work in progress from, you know, from the very basic floor level, and we consider this still our infancy.
Yeah.
Even though we've been doing it 3 years, and a lot of people might know about the network, or at the very least maybe one of the podcasts.
You said it yourself, man. It ain't about growing fast. It's just about everyday growth. Just everyday growth is what you told me when I started with this, and you're so right. If I can get 3 to 5 followers a week, which is pretty much we're about 3 to 4 a week. That's successful. That means people are tuning in there, and it's great when it's not great when I don't have an episode. Like we didn't have one Sunday. Show Me Green wasn't feeling well, and it happens. But like it's nice when those people reach out and they're like, "Are you doing a show today, or what's up?"
Yeah.
You know, because I'm like, "Damn, I gotta get in there and do that." So that's another reason why I'm motivated to do it today. But yeah, you told me that, and as long as you see a little bit of growth, and keep that in mind if you're doing something that on your own, if you're not seeing instant results, give it time.
Yeah.
Reach out to a friend. Chad's got an amazing network with tons of people that can help. I don't mind helping, at least giving you my points, or I can tell you how not to have some troubleshooting like I did. I'm definitely a technical difficulty guy sometimes, but I can eliminate those just like we can in growing weed. But yeah, don't give up on yourself. Like just practice, research, read. Like you said, read. That goes back to that.
Yeah. What do you love the most about it?
About what?
Podcasting.
What I love about most on podcasting is I'm a people's person. I love talking. I love socializing. And this is kind of becomes a little sanctuary on Sunday. We get here. It's just whoever I'm interviewing, my co-host, which is one of my best friends. And we're basically talking about products and strains, and it just keeps me happy. It's kind of like a meditation. It's almost as compressing to me than going kayaking. Like it's almost the same balance, and it's just a cool high. When you go somewhere and you're at Walmart or somewhere and come up, especially if I'm wearing the shirt East of Elvins, then people really know. Yeah, it's just really nice to know that people are like, dude, I love it. Thanks, that's awesome. Or can I be on? Yeah, I really like that because we had one of my favorite interviews, and I've had CEOs on here in the industry. I've had managers and district director of retails. One of my favorite episodes was Ian. Ian was one of these listeners that I had from the beginning. I do not know this guy from Inns. Never met this dude until I had him on the show because he said it was on his bucket list. He wanted to be on a podcast. I researched him. He was good. I didn't have to worry about nothing. Case and edit him because you got to do that shit now. Yeah. Sadly, but yeah, he came on. He sat here. He had a great time with me and Show Me Green and J Dog, and then when he left, I threw him a shirt. When he left, he texted me. He said, "Thank you. I can't wait until my mom sees this," because he hasn't seen his mom in like 20 years because she's in Arizona, and it's expensive to get out there, you know. And he said that she'll now be able to go on YouTube and see him, and he was excited about that, and it meant the world to me that I was able to deliver that just by inviting someone over to set in. So I think it's very rewarding for me to have the people I have and the people that want to be on. So
yeah, I've experienced that too. It's not, all the big names and the cool stuff that we get to do is very exciting.
Oh, hell yeah.
And a lot of people will send messages and tune into those things. But those aren't the big moments for me. It's like, talking to my buddy Ben, who's been sober for like 15 years, and telling him his story of like how bad things were and how messed up his life was, and being able to highlight that. And and I got a lot of messages about that too, is like, hey, I'm struggling too. put me in contact with Ben, or give me some help, because I heard what happened. I listened to your podcast, and I heard what happened with Ben and how he is having a great life now, and it wouldn't be the case if he didn't find that sobriety. So, and there's a million
That's awesome.
stories like that are actually the highlights for me. It's cool talking to Steve-O. It's cool talking about Jackass and all those fun, cool stuff, but it's the stuff that a lot of people don't necessarily see, that are like...
I have a similar case with Enlightened Jay when he came on and was talking about his book that he wrote about what he's went through, being in the court system and, being an inmate and coming out and like learning and still growing and being positive. Like, people can change with enough drive, and he's a walking example of that. But like, I've had 6 or 7 people reach out to me because they wanted to read that book, because they want to be inspired. They want to find a way to be able to feel positive about something again. Like, they might be not as doing the bad things they were doing, but they don't know how to better themselves even more. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was really cool that same way, like just seeing people that had problems before, if you don't give up on them, there's a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, and I got a message the other day that meant a lot to me. Is like, I tune into your podcast, and it's one of the few times in my day where I feel okay. And as a therapist and as a dude that just cares,
right?
It was cool.
Yeah, fuck yeah. So don't feel bad or scared to reach out to us. We're here. We got these social medias for a reason, and you guys would be here for us. So know that we're here for you guys too. If you're not following the barn, follow them, or Chad, and East of Elvins. Tell your friend, have them listen, subscribe, follow, all that jazz. I hate saying it all, but it means a lot, and it helps us. So it definitely spreading the word, let people know. Tune in.
The barn.media. Parkland Podcast, Vulgar Display of Podcast, The Tippy Joe Show, Birds and Swords, Bible Time at the Barn, Knuckleball Primetime. Parkland Sports Live is an offshoot of Knuckleball Primetime and Parkland Sports. We actually do live broadcast of high school football.
Nice.
So in the fall time, that'll kick back up. We focus on Farmington, Central, and North County for
That's
the most
all
part.
the local schools.
And it's guys that are, I think, some of the best in the business. It's Jason Lowry is kind of the production of it, but Mike Reeves, who's like the weather guy, a lot of people tune into him for when snow days and stuff.
My wife does.
Yeah. And Chad Speaker used to work at J98 forever. It's a well-known voice in this area. Jake Whitener, who's awesome. And Jacob Towers does production on that. So that'll kick up in the fall. That's a lot of people really... Obviously, they can't always maybe get out to the football game or to the high school game. So we're excited that we're able to provide that for the community. And we kicked it off last year, and it did so well for us. So we're excited about the fall time just as much as summer. Midwest Mixtape Podcast is everything from country to rap to everything not metal, and then the Dirty Right Rear Podcast. And then also, I got to say before we get out of here, every Wednesday, we missed last Wednesday because I was out of town, but we have revamped our Barn radio show. So, and I think you might have posted on it.
I did.
Me, Tippy, Ben Leffridge, who I was talking about, and Chuck Dice, who was on the original podcast, the Chris Sable Power Hour. He was the one that ran naked through the park.
Right. He brought him back.
Yeah, so we're doing a few episodes for that, and the idea is we're actually going to shop it. We're going to shop it to The Point. We're going to shop it to Z107.
Oh.
We're going to shop it to actually some people in New York or Toronto
God.
that we have a connection with.
That is dope.
Some people in LA. Part of this is we've made some connections that have been helpful, and maybe even getting some of the guests, but also that they're in tune with some of these bigger, like iHeartRadios and some of these things you see.
That is absolutely amazing, bro.
So we're going to be shopping that to some things.
Wow.
And I love those 4 personalities, and it's sort of maybe a morning radio where we talk
that
about...
would be a dream. That's the Rizzuto show's my favorite.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's my listen to, and it's the fact that everybody's getting together doing the same thing, only talking. I thought about even trying to get over there with Alan. I've worked at 107 but you got to start at sales, and I know all that, and I don't want to. It's a lot to drop away from to do that, but that's definitely a dream come true, man. I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah, and you mentioned Alan. Alan is, he's not maybe directly associated with the barn because he does so much other stuff, but we love Alan. He's done a lot of photography for us, and we've been able to provide some maybe opportunities. Like, he just got to do photography for 311.
Yeah,
which is like,
that's hands off
crazy, and Shinedown and Seether and Third Eye Blind and Yellow Card and some other photographies as well. Mike Haley's another one. Samantha.
He's very talented.
Yeah, and Todd Duckett. I don't, you know Todd.
Yeah,
don't
Todd.
you?
I had him on. I had Todd
Yeah.
on the episode too.
Oh, very cool. So we're just, man, we're having a lot of fun, and that's not going to stop anytime soon. In fact, it's going to grow.
It is.
At least I hope, anyway. And we have a lot of. It sounds cheesy, big things coming, but we do have a lot of things planned for the future.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you for always including us in the East Elvins 310 podcast, and know that we're always stand behind too. If you ever need an extra two guys, me and Show Me Green be right there. With that being said, Chad, you have officially been flossing on Davis Crossing now, as my mama told you when you got here.
How long do we go?
Not sure how to tell in there. I know it's pretty long.
I
Oh,
was
yeah, I
curious.
can. An hour and 20 minutes.
How's that?
Yeah.
Cool,
All right.
man.
Well, thanks all for following, and stay tuned and check out Chad. Peace.
Elvis.
Wherever.